Okay, since we're creating an API, there's certain responses that we should generate for certain types of request. Typically, when we send up an HTTP post that creates a resource on the server and we're creating an image or a resource on our server in our database, then the correct response to send back is not a 200 OK, but it's a 201 created. And specifically, as part of that 201 created, then in the headers, in the response headers, then we should have a location header that specifies where this new resource has been created. Now we can't do this perfectly because of what we have available in our API, and when we do create a new image, then the way that we get it is by actually making a request for the user's details, and then we get the images, including the newly created one, inside there. We don't have an endpoint where we can go and get the individual image that has been created. So the way that we'll use this is we'll simply return the location of where to get the user that uploaded that image, just by way of example of how to accomplish this. So we'll go back to VS Code, let's disconnect the debugger, and inside the endpoint for the created uproot, and let's clean up that breakpoint as well. Then inside here, we're still returning an action result, but instead of returning just OK, which is what we're effectively doing at the moment, let's make a change to this. So we're going to return created at something. And there's a few different options for this that really just achieve the same thing. Probably the easiest one to use is the created at action. So we'll go with this one. And inside our user's controller, we have actions effectively. Each one of these is called an action. Add photo is an action. Update user is an action. And we're going to specify the get user, which is going to effectively get the user with their photos. But we're not returning the user with their photos from this. We're just returning effectively the location as a header. So we're going to go down and we're going to specify created at action. And then in order to use this, we specify the first parameter here is the name of the action. So I'm going to say name of, and then now we get the how to use the thing. So we pass this as a string and an action name, but effectively we're going to say name of, and we're going to say get user, one of our methods inside here. The second parameter is the root parameters. So we add these inside, and let's take a look at the second overload here. So the second parameter here is the root values. And what we mean by root values is if I take a look at the get user endpoint, then we have a root value of the username. In order to get a user, we need to pass up as a parameter that user's username. So we need to do the same thing inside here for our created at root so that it can create the correct location header. So inside an object, we specify the username. This is the name of the parameter, and we're going to set it equal to user.username. And then the third parameter is the resource we're going to send back. And in this case, it's going to be mapper.map. And we're going to map to a photo DTO, and we're going to pass in the photo. And it's claiming I've done something wrong here. And it's because this object, we need to use the new keyword to actually use that. So let's bring this stuff down. And this is how we add a created at something. And in this case, I'm using the created at action. And what this really does is it just adds a location header to our response. And if we go and test this, and let's just check the status of hot reload, and I just want this to work, so I'm just going to restart the application rather than fail, because I'm uploading a photo at the same time. And just for brevity, I feel it's going to be quicker just to restart the app than fail and come back and restart the app. So let's add another photo for the user. I'll select a file and say new file, pick an image and go for 1.3 in this case, and click send. And what we'd expect to see differently this time is we're going to get a 201 created, and that is indeed the case. We get that 201, but what we also have here is a location header which provides the location of the resource where that image or that resource has been created. Now, the only option we have is to return the user, but that matches the endpoints of what we sent back in that created action. Just a small thing really, and because this is an API that we're creating for a client application that we're also creating, how big a deal is this? Well, not really, but it can be a big deal for a public API where you've got many other consumers that are expecting certain types of responses, and when they do create a resource, they need to know where to get that particular resource. So it's just an example, and it's something that we should add to our API. But now we've done the API side of things, next we'll take a look at the client side of things to add and upload an image.